we must embrace democracy and the rule of law. Kenya wote tudumishe amani Kenya. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza kupendana. Wana Kenya wote tudumishe amani Kenya. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza kupendana. Ndugu zetu wa Kenya tutoe shukrani kwa Mungu. Kwa nchi yetu Kenya, nchi ya urithi wetu. Wana Kenya wote tudumishe amani Kenya. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza kupendana. Wana Kenya wote tudumishe amani Kenya. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza kupendana. Tushikane mikono pamoja sote wa Mungu. Tujenge Kenya moja, nchi ya urithi wetu. Tushikane mikono pamoja sote wa Mungu. Tujenge Kenya moja, nchi ya urithi wetu. Wana Kenya wote tudumishe amani Kenya. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza kupendana. Wana Kenya wote tudumishe amani Kenya. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza kwani hadi bara kusini na magharibi tukaishi kwa amani aliyotuachia Mungu. Kwani hadi bara kusini na magharibi tuishi kwa amani aliyotuachia Mungu. Wana Kenya wote tudumishe amani Kenya. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza kupendana. Wana Kenya wote tudumishe amani Kenya. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza kupendana. Neno lake Mungu latuhimiza. Nchini Kenya kazi za kina mama zapendeza, heko kina mama, juhudi zenu za amani kwa wote. Nipongezi, heko kina mama, nchini Kenya kazi za kina mama zapendeza, heko kina mama, juhudi zenu za amani kwa wote. Nipongezi, eko kina mama, kina mama. Nchini, majukumu yao sio kidogo, si wadharau kina mama ndugu. Kina mama, nguzo ya jamii Kenya, si wadharau. Kina mama Nchini, majukumu yao sio kidogo, si wadharau kina mama ndugu. Kina mama, nguzo ya jamii Kenya. Kina mama, taifa, juhudi zenu za amani kwa wote. Kenya hoye, miaka na mikaka, kina mama kwanza wa taifa, juhudi zenu za amani kwa wote. Kenya hoye, miaka na mikaka, kina mama Kenya yetu hoye, kina mama, tena kwenu, juhudi zenu. Kulijenga, juhudi zenu. Kuinua. Kina mama hoye, Kenya yetu hoye.
All right. Now, it's that afternoon that we're expecting that Wafula Chebukati would be announcing the final outcome of the presidential election. The invitation read that the time would be 3 p.m. It's now 24 minutes after that hour. We're still waiting. The Bomas of Kenya has become a place where you hear some music, then it goes quiet, then you hear the music, goes quiet, then you hear us. Rashid.
Na labda pengine kitu ambacho Sam pia kitazungumziwa ni kwamba tulikuwa tumeambiwa kwamba saa 9 japo haijafika mpaka saa 10, lakini sijui kama waliopo tukianza na wakili Steve tutaweza kuzungumza kwamba je, kuna chochote kinaweza fanyika pale sasa hivi ama lazima tusubiri paka wagombea wote wafike ndio tupate cha kuendelea? Maoni yako.
Allow me to respond in English. Well, thank you, Rashid. The announcement must go on with or without all presidential candidates. Of course, they have been invited and we expect them to honor. I haven't seen the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga making his way to Bomas yet. It's not far off. Whether he makes it or not, it's not far off. The announcement can be made. The law requires the returning officer, the national returning officer, in this case, Wafula Chebukati, to hand over the certificate to the person so declared as the winner. I do not wish to speculate about the outcome of this, because then to negate the reason why we are here. But we would expect that the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga
Yeah, at some point guys were asking, why is he not changing the clothes, called the wife? And then, okay, we realize he's very sober. I said, this one looks like it's a strategy. Everything, now we've gone all around, we are back to this. So that humor, by the way, reminds me of Chinua Achebe's work. When he takes the first person in the story he writes, he has got the capacity to laugh at himself. He do stupid things and still laugh at himself. So when you look at it, you find a character that is actually messing up still being able to point out that they know they are messing up and they laugh at themselves, and somehow it just goes down, throws the whole thing. Right.
Yeah. I think even as we continue with the conversation, those are live pictures coming to us from the Bomas of Kenya. Inside the you can see the tight security deployed there. I cannot count, but those are quite a high number of police officers manning the area. On one side, the pictures, I think these are international observers seated on one.
Actually,
well, these are.
We have a mix of diplomats.
Right.
Sorry, Zainab.
Yes, of course,
the far left we have.
You can see better than I.
Much as I'm older, right? To the left we have Meg Whitman, who's just the new U.S. ambassador to Kenya. Next to her we have the UK High Commissioner to Kenya. So we are seeing a number of diplomats there. It's a very high-end event, as you would imagine. But yes, there are observers, international observers, who are allowed in. So I mean, Kenya is such a strategic country in regards to its placement, its influence, name it, and so even the international community is really watching watching how right now what we may say the most powerful man, Chebukati, is going to do.
Oh, he really is. all eyes are on suddenly Mr. Wafula Chebukati talking about the importance of Kenya. Globally, but let's look at it, regionally. I mean, Kenya has been seen to be, of a healthy democracy and beacon of stability. In this whole region, at least East and Central Africa. Now, looking at, where Kenya stands in terms of its space in the region. I'll begin with you, Achieng. Why is this election so important to ensure that it is a pivotal point and a subject of you can go back and say Kenya held its elections in the most democratic way, sort of like an example to the rest of the states surrounding. This region?
I think, like you said, we are a hub and we host quite a number of headquarters. And when people have problems, we go in and try to help address and to retain that moral authority, to retain that lead. We have to appear to be getting things right ourselves. Recently, we had the DRC join the EAC. DRC joined EAC.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
You are already joining EACC.
And we know the issues had, even with between themselves and Rwanda. We know sometimes there are issues. I at the risk of being on the wrong side with Ugandans, and we send delegations, to try and intervene, to try and talk to them. The role Kalonzo Musyoka played in Sudan. So we must stay above. We must appear to be above. We must appear to be getting things right ourselves. And you have seen messages from Tanzania. Tanzanians are perhaps, in terms of politics, we keep saying they are more mature than we are. But you have also seen them admire how we do things, despite our thinking that they are ahead of us. They've been admiring, except now they are concerned also about the declaration that's taking too long, but it keeps us ahead. Kenya, for example, is also the hub of election observers, the EHON, and you saw election observer missions from all over Africa come to observe this particular election, and they did it as Africans amongst them. We did it as Africans, like Ndindi Nyoro likes to say, we are Africans and Africa is our business. On this election, we actually seemed to be saying, we seemed to want to really have the world know that. And I happened to interact with the person who was heading the West African delegation. And he was so excited, and he said that this must definitely be repeated in the Nigerian elections of next year. Let's have Africa, because we understand ourselves, we understand how we do things. Kenya has shown the way. We have led yet again. Let us copy-paste this into the Nigerian election. So I think it is important because we lead, we put ourselves out there, we have moved now. We're not like our peers, we're not. In terms of economics, we are now middle income. we are ahead of our peers, you know. So as we continue to try and take lead in every sphere, be it politically, economically, socially, it is important that we are ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
And looking at President Uhuru Kenyatta, I mean, he leaves, you know, a huge space, and whoever will come in and fit into that position will certainly need to master how President Uhuru Kenyatta has managed to you know, engage himself and Kenya in this region. You know, you can say President Uhuru has been quite, you know, a master of soft power, and his popularity, you know, you know, I have had him, you know, called that, you know, master of soft power. You know, his popularity certainly
with our neighbors.
With our neighbors.
Not internally.
Well, I'm talking about in this East African community. You know, he's tried, you know, in his second term especially, you know, in his trying to build relationships among the countries around, you know, Kenya. Looking at that, is a person who's going to fit into these shoes able to continue with that legacy?
You know, the reason why I laughed when you said
a master of soft power.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has been a master of soft power. I wasn't so sure until you clarified that it's with our neighbors, because internally, you know, President Uhuru is this particular parent who's very hard on his kids but very soft on the neighborhood kids. You know, the neighborhood kids will actually call him a king, a good man, but at home, is actually a very hard one on his own children.
But to be fair, but you do agree that, you know, at a time where there was no semblance of, you know, integration within the East African community, and it appeared that things were collapsing at that point, it was him who, after all these years of squabbles, sort of brought those partners together.
Yeah, that's no lie. He actually has worked very well at international level. You remember at some point he actually was even appointed the global champion for youth. And even at the African level, I think he was chairing something to do with the youth. If there's anything the president, I know this is not the time to actually talk about his scorecard, but I know that one of those things, because I have worked with and for young people for most of my adult life. And I would actually tell you that if there's anything that he left unattended was the youth work. The way he dealt with the youth issue, for the last 10 years, he just dropped. Even Kibaki, a much older man than him, did much for the youth of this country than him. I will actually go into details and justify that. That one is actually on my head because I've been in that sector for the last 15 years. But that said, at international level, he's worked very well at EAC. Even if some neighbors sometimes behaved, really had bad manners, he had the calmness of mind to reach out to a phone and call them. He's tried to actually ensure that some of those applications to join EAC that were pending, he really pushed that we bring them on board. At the continental level, he actually is a very cool guy. Very, very cool guy. As in, on the continental level, these guys are missing out a cool kid. Who go out there and knows how to engage those guys very, very well. Let's also remember that he started off bullishly, especially with the international world, the community, especially with the ICC at that particular time when they came in at first. Once he actually ensured that ICC was no longer an issue, he actually then changed tact. That our foreign affairs docket has actually been a very good tip of the spear on how we've actually engaged. For us, I think the biggest army we have as a country is foreign affairs. Our relations, that is how we know how to fight our battles, whether it is territorial, whether it is trade, whether it is just our place among the League of Nations. Our foreign affairs is one of those docket that is uncelebrated, yet that is the bulldozer of how we engage with our neighbors. So on that, the president gets it well. Is anyone else really going to fit into
are they able to cut out?
It's easy. We actually have got one of the best foreign affairs teams. The Foreign Affairs Ministry has got some of the sharpest minds you can actually find, not just on the continent, but globally. That you can actually just check and see how we actually rated. From the current PAs to the former minister, we have got the Minister for Sports currently, who is a very good diplomat. That we've done very well. That's how we actually have managed, for example, The United Nations office in Nairobi, for example, is the continental headquarters for Africa. Habitat, UN Habitat, is actually the global headquarters for that particular agency. So we've managed to keep some of these agencies locally here, and literally everybody coming to Nairobi and putting up a small headquarters and then running to do production elsewhere. Because now, industrial-wise, then when it comes to industrial, then we've lost out to other neighbors because the cost of production around here has actually gone higher. So you bring a continental headquarters office in Upper Hill, but the factory is in Addis, probably in Dodoma or in Uganda. But then the real office, the headquarters, is actually in Nairobi. Just with 4 people. So we lose out on the other things on that particular end. The president didn't have so big shoes that no one can fit. That's what I'm trying to say. That the Ministry of Foreign Affairs...
But at the end of it all, the winner doesn't have a choice. He must continue at least what the region expects, and some sort of continuity and stability.
The technocrats in foreign affairs actually know how to do their work. But most times, those are the people who literally prime the guy who comes to office. This is how we relate with these guys. This is our experience. This is what we know. And this is how we move on. So I don't think anyone will struggle to fall into that, especially if our focus is about charming, to charm our neighbors and everything else. I don't know, but if whoever comes in is actually interested in just working on local issues, again, we might not need that so much. But the truth is that since we do a lot of exporting, and our influence around our neighbors is just about how we actually get to move by, I think it's necessary. Also, don't think that there's anything he's done miraculously beyond what Kibaki did.
Achei, do you think Uhuru Kenyatta has, I mean, aside from, there's a lot of, like we said, the country has a deficiency of trust generally, and it's also, there's a significant of it that is in the government and the systems. But when we just look at it from through an objective lens, what do you feel that Uhuru Kenyatta has done for this country that by the time he's handing over to either of the 2 gentlemen who's going to be announced anytime now, ideally, what do you think will be some of the things that an objective eye would say this is a solid thing he did for Kenya?
I think one would be infrastructural development, which we have seen he took it from Kibaki and ran with it. And I think that's something we will forever remember him for. And what I love best about the expressway, for example, is not just the road itself, but what it does to the mind of Kenyans. We never imagined it possible. We never imagined a road would actually be run over the other if you have not been out of this country. It never seemed possible. And so anytime you get into an argument, a discussion, the line Key Expressway, sneaks into a conversation. So it's opened us up to possibilities. And now when we are exposed to ordinary things, we want to look for an expressway kind of way of doing things. And I think for me, that's something we might not talk about much, but for me, it is really a big thing because now we are now open-minded. The Masai say, macho ya kufunguka haifunguki. I don't know if it is.
I have to confirm that.
Once you have seen, you cannot unsee,
Right.
Maybe learning, you can unlearn, but once you've seen, you cannot unsee. Right. I think that's a big plus for him. He tried in the foreign affairs, like you said, working with our neighbors. Of course, forever, every time we talk about DRC and the East African community, it will always go with Uhuru's name. So that he takes, And the same way the efforts around Sudan always go with Kalonzo's name. So this he takes. But in terms of bringing us together and nationhood, I think he really tried this, but may not have succeeded. But I think there was a lot of good effort towards it. I remember in his first term, he didn't visit Kisumu, for example. But in his second term with the handshake, it became a possibility, and he demystified how the Luo community looks at and experiences the Kikuyu community. He humanized Kikuyus in the eyes of the Luos. We no longer look at them with the stereotypes that we have grown up with as a community. And I think for me that's a beautiful thing, because now we know you can actually work with them, he has bridged a gap. In terms of bringing us together, in terms of building the nation.
All right.
Perhaps it would have, if he had gone with his BBI initiative, perhaps then he would have succeeded in that also. But he has made strides towards that. And in terms of building trust, at least he has moved the Luo community closer in terms of trust when it comes to the Kikuyu community.
Right. Well, now, just maybe in a couple of minutes, we will be able to have, some sort of way and get to know how this country will be headed in terms of that we're getting a new leader, but of course is most likely what will happen. And as this new leader suddenly prepares to assume office, there will be other things that will be demanded from him. And one of the most essential issues that we're looking at, of course, is dealing with the domestic challenges, even away from the demands of the region. And the East Africa will be what is happening in the country, such as the issue of cushioning the Kenyans from the economic crisis that is facing us. Arnold, I mean, we've seen from at least majority of the presidential candidates